What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video for the Lord of the Rings adventure card game. So here's the deal. I've got a story for you, and I promise this story will tie into the rest of the video, but for now just know I have this friend, and this friend of mine has a bit of a problem. Let's just say he's not particularly endowed. The fire hose doesn't quite reach the fire, so to speak. Don't ask how I know this, he's just a good friend, he's confided in me and all that nonsense. So anyway, I wanted to buy this friend a present just for being an awesome dude. But I wanted to have a little bit of fun while I was at it, you know. So I went online, I looked up some things, and I came across the perfect present. It's a book that's meant to help men with their angry little inch. So I headed down to my local bookstore because, you know, I live in a small town. I want to support the local businesses rather than buy online. Anyway, by the time I got to the store, I kind of forgot what the title of the book was. So I had to, I had a bit of a look around, and after a while I gave up and I went to the front counter and asked the store assistant if she could help me find this book for men with small dongs. Now she went to a computer system, and after a moment she turned back to me and she said, "Sir, I don't think it's in yet." I said, yeah, that's the one I'm looking for, yeah. You know what absolutely is in though? New hero spoilers! Yay! He says in a segue that was totally not forced and not at all awkward. Hey, I told you it would tie into the rest of the video, didn't I? So yeah, let's take a look at 4 new heroes that were released with the 3rd campaign, Witch King's Grasp. That doesn't have a release date yet, but I'm sure it'll come hopefully soon? Anyway, as we look at these 4 new heroes, I'm going to offer some impressions of them while we're at it. Now just know that they are a work in progress, so they could change. And of course, these are just my own impressions of these cards. You may totally disagree with them, and that's perfectly fine. You'd be wrong, but you're entitled to be wrong. Oh good. Okay, with that covered, let's take a look at our new heroes coming up for the Lord of the Rings adventure card game. The first one up is Frodo. The bearer of the One Ring himself is finally going to be playable. And to me, he doesn't disappoint. He comes in with 7 threat, he has 1 attack, a whopping 3 willpower, and a low health value of 7. So he's going to need some protection, unfortunately. Luckily for us though, he can handle this a little bit himself thanks to the printed stealth keyword he has here. But that's not all. He also introduces a new keyword in the form of achieve. So what does achieve mean? Well, it functions rather similarly to the way Vanquish functions, but instead of Vanquish triggering off killing enemies, achieve triggers off completing hazards and objectives. So when a character with achieve completes a hazard or objective, the following text is triggered. In Frodo's instance, when he clears a hazard or objective, you will gain 1 resource as a player. Pretty cool. It's nice seeing some resource gaining outside of leadership, but I think what's really good here is that 3 printed willpower. That just makes that achieve trigger so so likely to happen. Especially with most hazards only having a value of 3, in solo mode at least. It should be very easy to get this achieve trigger off. Now, interestingly also, it looks like achieve isn't just bound to a single trigger per round, I should say. So it looks like we might be able to use achieve to gain multiple resources with, say, a star brooch on Frodo. Or even unexpected courage or something like that, which will be really handy on those locations where Sauron gets a little bit hazard happy. Speaking of Starbreach though, let's talk about the stealth here. For those of you that don't know, there exists in the game an interesting interaction between stealth and stalwart. When a character has both of those keywords, they can apply fate to the meter and remain under the cloak of stealth if that fate action was the first action that character used for the round. So, you know, there's some interesting things already working out here with Frodo. As I mentioned earlier, the stealth keyword provides some protection for Frodo, allowing him to hide from enemies until Sauron completes his turn. But sometimes that's just not enough. Sometimes he needs a little help from a good friend, like my friend in the beginning of the video here. What better friend can he have than the ultimate best friend, Sam Gamgee? So Sam has a much higher threat value than Frodo at a 10, but we also have 2 attack, 1 willpower, and 9 health. So fairly middling, but Sam has a triggered ability of gaining 1 additional attack value when guard is activated. Interesting. So, and in addition to this, if he manages to kill an enemy, whether that's through attacking or guarding, the Vanquish ability will trigger and reduce Sauron's resource by 1. First of all, what an absolute unit. I really like this dude. His 9 health is definitely something to be aware of, as it's not a great amount to work off of if you're planning on using that guard strategy, but luckily for us, because he is in leadership, there are ways of improving Sam's survivability with the ever popular Raven-winged helm attachment or even Gondorian shield. Specifically with both of those to gain the block keyword, that just helps reduce the damage that Sam's going to take when he gets attacked, when he's guarded up. Now in terms of offensives, we also have some good attachments that will be good for Sam, such as Ranger's Sword, or even a good point for the counter keyword could result in Sam being able to attain a pretty non-trivial amount of damage output when he is guarding or attacking. Now, that's not all that's interesting here. If we're playing around with the Hobbit theme, which we probably should be, running Sam also opens the door to something like Raise the Shire. But even without other hobbits, Sam can pull his weight, being able to give non-spirit decks some access to resource denial for Sauron and his Vanquish, through his Vanquish ability, I should say. I'm sure he'll definitely fit into some very interesting builds. Let's actually take a look at some. Speaking of the hobbits, how does the BFF team work here? Let's consider Sam and Frodo together, because I think they make a really interesting team. Frodo gives Sam access to a suite of other resource denial cards from Spirit, stuff like Bilbo's Cloak and Wandering Took, to really help bring that resource denial consistency going. And Frodo's strength, being able to clear hazards and objectives while also gaining resources, feeds into leadership's natural ability for resource gain, allowing for, say, quickly gaining some high cost, high effect assistance from like Gandalf or Tom Bombadil or Radagast, maybe Erkenbrand. So yeah, like with leadership's big resource boost, you know, it could be easy to protect Frodo and Sam in the longer run. But let's not forget about our other Hobbit heroes. Something like Fredegar Bolger here not only gives us this assistance from lore, but his ability to give a character guard can feed into Sam's triggered ability, which is interesting. Now, if you're looking at Tom Took, another Hobbit hero that we have, you know, that would push us into double spirit, but we'd also get some sweet removal from, I forget the name of the card, I'll put it up on the screen, but or even something like damage denial from a friend in need. Alright, so I've got to move on, but I can assure you that I'm super interested to start messing around with these 2 new Hobbit heroes, especially cheesing out the 5th quest of the first campaign, Journey Down the Anduin. That's going to be a lot of fun with what's his name, Bilbo. Anyway, so what's our next hero? Well, our next hero is from lore, and it is Rossiel. So this hero isn't entirely new. We got a sneak peek at her in the newly revamped tutorial. but we weren't really allowed to mess around too much with her because FFI made sure that we were strictly only able to use her in the tutorial, with the tutorial deck. But let's take a look at her. She's got 8 threat, pretty low, 1 attack, 2 willpower, and 8 health. Honestly, nothing worth talking about there, but let's take a look at her power action. Recover one of your non-unique allies. So what does recover mean? Well, basically it means to return an ally that's already on the board back to your hand. Now, straight away, I'm just going to say, I'm going to try and abuse the hell out of this hero. Completely consensually and respectfully, of course, but there are multiple ways that I can imagine using Rossiel here. There are 2 major ones that come to my mind are, well, the first one is probably the biggest major way to use her is to recur cheap allies that have an arrival ability. Something like Galadriel's Handmaiden for a very consistent threat reduction plus a nice 4 willpower swing per turn, per round. So there's that one. There's also something like Westfold Outrider is really nice with a lot of damage that can hit the board. A bit conditional, but say you play Westfold Outrider, you get 2 damage on the arrival trigger, then you get 2 attack damage from either the Outrider attacking or guarding, and then you can use Rossiel to bounce him back into your hand, playing again to deal an additional 2 damage and then another attack. So good case scenario would see 8 points of damage just from playing Westfold Outrider with Rossiel. Now going back to our Hobbit archetype with Frodo and Sam, perhaps Rossiel might find an interesting place being able to chain multiple wandering tooks for more persistent resource denial. But that's not all. What about if we use her to recur a ally with a particularly handy power action, like something like Daughter of the Nimrodel if we're hurting for health, or even something like Longbeard Mapmaker to really get some good willpower action going on. Okay, so that's the first major thing I can think about using Rossiel for. What's the second one? Well, to recur a valuable ally that perhaps is close to death, rescuing them from the terrible discard pile where we can never see them again. I can imagine using Rossiel to return something like Guard of the Citadel or Guardian of Arnor back to the hand right before they die, and then we've always got a guard character in our hand to play. That might be something that is a valuable strategy with Rossiel. So I really can't wait to play around with her when she comes out, and even see what other community members can build with her. But we've got to move on to the last hero that we have spoiled, and it is our tactics champion, Boromir. 11 threat, fairly standard to attack, a middling 1 power, but a nice beefy 11 health. Now his stats seem fairly standard for a tactics hero, but his vanquish ability here states that when he kills an enemy, you can choose to either give all characters an additional attack value or give all characters block. Now this is just once per round, so we can't use it like we would Faramir's vanquish ability, but dang, despite that, this is a fairly easy way of giving all characters block consistently every round. Woo! That's good. It also looks like this ability won't be affected when playing co-op, just by judging from how it's worded, stating that all characters gain the buff rather than just your characters. Means that there can be some guaranteed shenanigans to happen with those Dane and Dwarf builds. But I reckon if FFI is going to change anything, they might restrict Boromir's ability to just your characters. Now, also looking at the wording of that Vanquish trigger, it's also safe to assume that the effect should work for Boromir himself as well, taking advantage of something like Stalwart or a Redding effect, or heck, Enduring Valor. we might be able to get an additional attack out of him when he's boosted up. But what else can we do with him? Well, we can beef him up with the usual attachments like Warrior's Sword or Raiment of War or Ranger's Spear. But what else does Boromir do in terms of deck building? Well, besides the high damage offensiveness of the Dane and Dwarf builds, thanks to the ability to dole out block like the Oprah of defensive keywords, he could really help enable some highly defensive deck builds that rely on high cost, high impact allies for doing like a bulk of the work, like, you know, or even just giving low health, really soft allies like Imladris Minstrel or Grateful Escapee some extra block and some extra defensive ability so that they can hopefully survive Sauron's attack. Now, we've seen a lot of lore and leadership decks popping up around the place, but with Boromir in the game, he may actually open up some more tactics and lore strategies, or even tactics and spirit strategies. And speaking of spirit, let's not forget, if you're terribly allergic to the threat meter, running Boromir with someone like Glorfindel will make the Dork's threat reduction option even more attainable if we can assure that he takes less damage thanks to the block keyword being gained off of Boromir's ability trigger. Now, even to me, just looking at him, he seems like he could even potentially shut down some of the locations that we've seen in the game already, especially when the locations that are very heavy on one attack minions, because a lot of those minions don't like to attack a character with block because they're not going to do anything. The Moonling Horde from King of Carrion really comes to mind when I think of that. But suffice to say, I think the ability to be able to choose either an offensive or defensive attack really shows Boromir as being a very versatile hero for tactics. Potentially even, I feel like I can say it, one of the Sphere's better heroes right now. So that covers all the new heroes that will be coming when the third expansion, The Witch King's Grasp, drops sometime, hopefully not too long. I'm super excited. I'd even say that these 4 heroes look far and away better than the previous 4 we got. But you know what, that's enough controversy from me today. So I hope you guys enjoy one man's totally 100% correct opinion on the new hero spoilers. Sound down below your thoughts. I'd love to hear them. And as always, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.